Really want to spend some time talking about Instagram. It's been a big kind of focus point for a lot of the students going through my course. Kate, I want to spend some time talking about really Instagram in general, all the way from handle to long-term planning. So let's start with really kind of building the page out. Talk to me about the importance of choosing the right type of handle. Like first of all, what is it?
Yeah.
And then second of all, like how important it is. As an example, mine's National Mortgage Coach. I think it kind of tells you what I'm doing, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So the handle is important, I believe, but more than that is the name, because that's searchable. So if you have in your name that you're a mortgage coach, then that's going to be searchable if somebody types in mortgage coach. So you could have a creative handle that maybe isn't descriptive of your title, but as long as you have it in the name, then you should be good.
So if they're a loan officer, then it would just be like Michael the loan officer, Mike loan officer, something along those lines. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How about your avatar? People, it's almost like a logo, right? Or like brand recognition, and I feel like people rotate them out a lot. Talk to me a little bit about the avatar.
Tell me more about what you mean by avatar, like as far as like who your ideal client is.
Great. No, more so like the photo that you use for your profile.
Like your profile picture.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that for that, it's important that it's catchy, when it's small. Like that's why you'll see a lot of people with those like colorful backgrounds because it stands out. Like yours is orange, right?
Yeah.
So that's important to have a clear image and one that you can see the face of the person.
Yeah, I think even friends that I have who never change the photo, it's almost like branding in essence because it sticks and it kind of stays memorable.
It does.
But then if they keep it like that for like 5 years and then they switch it, it's like kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, who is this guy?
Totally.
Yeah. Let's talk about the importance of using the bio. You don't have a lot of characters. You basically get 3 lines. What do you think is the most important thing for somebody to describe in that bio to get like the best results?
So I think that it's important that you talk about what you do, right? And who you help, who you serve, and and why.
Okay.
And if you can cover all of that, I think that, and then using emojis that represent, your personality.
Sure. Yeah. So if, for loan officers, we would say residential mortgage loan officer, maybe an achievement.
Yeah, or
right?
so let's go back to residential loan officer. So what's their specialty? Like that's what they do, but let's go, if you dig deeper into that, who do they help? Like maybe it's veterans or something, and then put that detail in there.
Okay, so that's kind of a big challenge for a lot of loan officers. They like to say that they help everybody.
Sure.
But if you really kind of just take a minute and look inside your business for a second, you probably have a majority of some form of type client.
Yeah.
Okay, so residential loan officer helping veterans into home ownership, right? And then a call to action like DM me if you need help or DM me. Yeah, okay, fantastic.
Yeah, and you don't have to get super specific if you don't want to. If you don't want to go that specific, you don't have to. But
some people overkill it, right? So it's easy to kind of keep it simple.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you brought up an interesting point about leveraging the link space. Talk to me about what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, so Ryan Pineda does not like links, at least in your bio, because he wants to get everyone into the DMs, because that way we know who has interest in what he's talking about. And then we can, reach out to them.
Yeah, I think that's
nurture that
relationship. That's great tip, because ultimately you're putting all this energy and effort out to your audience, and your goal is to keep them engaged and really just have an easy form of connecting with you.
Right.
And if you're sending them other places, it gives their brain an opportunity to shut off.
Yeah, and
distracted.
We don't know who clicked on the link, right? Because if they don't take another action, then you don't know. But if they have to send you a DM to get more info, even if they don't take action after that, at least you know who is interested.
Great point. Yeah, because if you're trying to capture data, then they have to go to the link, watch a video, book a call, or drop other info. Okay. So I like that. And what some things that I'll do is like I'll give something away for free.
Yeah.
And they have to DM a certain word, but now they're in the DM.
Yep.
And then we reply back with, give us your name and email, and we'll give you the document.
That's great. Yeah.
Love it. That's a great tip. I think I actually will probably go delete my link.
Yeah.
Because I have one in there, and it's really not doing anyone any justice.
Right. A lot of people have them in there, but that's Ryan's strategy. So
I think people, now let's go into like thumbnails, right? Because talk to me about the difference of just posting and then posting maybe with thumbnails. And then if people want to get creative and start designing thumbnails, where's the best place for them to do that?
So I think that thumbnails are important. It's important for somebody to know what you're going to talk about in the video so that they know if they want to click on it or not. Like, that's really the point. But I think that you have to be careful because you can get way consumed with the details, right? Like, and I'm sure you've experienced this when you're talking about social media with different loan officers. They can get stuck in the weeds and then they don't create. So I feel like to get going, it's best to create as much as you can. And then even if you're just using the Instagram captions, just make sure you hover over on a cover photo where it says what you're talking about. So you're not adding a bunch of extra steps. You're not having to go to Canva and create this extra thing, and that just takes time. And unless you have a team to do that for you, it's harder to create as much content.
So once you create the post, you use the Instagram captions. You can edit those if there's spelling errors.
Sure.
And then right before you go to post, it lets you pick a cover. And you're saying slide along the video until you find the right fit.
Yeah.
That sort of gives you enough. Right? You're like, if you're talking about down payment assistance, then slide to that part.
Or something that will generate curiosity.
Great.
Yeah.
I think what we forget is if we look at the usage time when we're on social media, most times we're like laying in bed. And sometimes we just don't want something playing in the background. So usually we're reading a little bit before we jump in. So that's a great tip because then, again, you're more focused on getting content up and going versus getting into the design aspect.
Because that's what I see with a lot of our, people that reach out, clients that reach out to us to work with us. They just get stuck in all of that. And because there's just so much out there to learn. And what's most important, and this is what we were talking about earlier, is showing up as you. And so they can see your personality and why people work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of my coaching program is really branding. And the deepest part of that branding aspect is finding your authentic self.
Yeah.
And it's really one of the hardest points or steps in the course for students to go through, because especially when you're in sales, you really start to like wear a lot of masks and you kind of forget to be yourself. And what's funny is these people have been doing this for 20 years. It's like they have to take a really long look in the mirror to like remind themselves who they are.
Yeah.
But once they get it, they start feeling a lot more energized about growing their business because they're doing it based on the things that they want versus acting in a way for other people.
Right, because you can feel that.
Totally, right? Especially in social media, right? Because then it starts coming off as salesy.
Yep.
So let's talk about some of the biggest issues with your content and what you believe is smart to stay away from.
Yeah, so, I think that what people struggle with the most is consistency. And maybe they get going for a while, but then they stop. And you don't want to do that. So you want to create a plan for yourself that's realistic and that you're going to follow through on. And I think in order to do that and to get that momentum going, you have to not be a perfectionist.
Yeah, totally.
And that goes back to being your authentic self, which, because we all want to look super smart and polished and how, all this credibility, and of course, but we're also human, and people want to work with people. They don't, they don't want that like commercial that's what it feels like when it's too polished, right? Like
Yes.
it just feels like an ad. So, but how do you teach that in your course? I'm curious. How do you teach someone how to be their authentic self?
So we demystify, diagnose, and we kind of just bring it out in those people. So really it's a lot of one-on-one conversations about their background, the things that they're into. And what I find, and you're just like you're saying, right, a lot of their personal things.
Speaking of authenticity, why don't we bring her in here? This is like the dad that's doing it all right here.
Hey,
He's
buddy.
working, he's filming content.
Look,
Like this little angel is here too.
what do you need?
I'm hungry.
You are? Let's see what we got. So what I do is I spend a lot of one-on-one time with people, especially in that authenticity piece, because I think it would be hard to like hand that off to another coach or somebody else that's helping me with my business. In order for us to really kind of dig deep, it's just learning more about people's interests and their background and their story and where they're from, and that story then kind of becomes the conversation piece when they meet people. And trying to then use their background and interests as ways to connect with other people.
Yes,
And making sure they actually connect with people, otherwise the whole thing's forced.
totally. Yeah.
And I think as like loan officers, especially when you're doing sales in social media, when you're selling something, you're not connecting. And then the people that end up biting on it, like it's always, you're always treated like a service.
Yeah.
But when you're like authentic and people like you for who you are and you're bringing education and content,
Yeah.
then they're following you because they like you, and it's just a much
Yeah.
smoother process.
Yeah, and then they know you're the mortgage guy. So like whenever they do need you, they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna reach out because I just love what he talks to me about.
So a lot of loan officers will hit the content and they just really, and I say don't do reels for deals. So that's one of like my terms.
I like that.
They're just talking about the products that they have, which is like what everybody's doing.
Right, and it's so boring.
It totally is. Like, and they'll get a couple likes and their views are low. I try to teach them to kind of tell stories
Yeah.
about how they used it. So if you've got any suggestions there or what
Totally.
you're coaching other people to do, I would love to hear.
Yeah. So with loan officers, this is how I look at this. You know, everyone isn't looking to buy today, right? Like they're maybe watching your content, but they're not ready to buy right now. So if you're creating content that's more broad about, say, mindset, and they resonate with that, then they're going to continue to follow you, right? They're not going to be annoyed with you because you're serving them, you're giving them value.
Totally.
And then if you create content about, you know, mortgages, then I would tell stories of how that applies to them, because all the mortgage lingo, they don't know and they don't care. They want to know, like, how's it going to affect them? And
Totally.
so telling that story and even using an example of a client that maybe you helped, I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, because more people are going to relate to the story or your personal lifestyle
Yeah.
than the products that you're talking about, because they don't even know what
Right.
products they need.
And they don't care about like a 2-1 buy down when they're not buying today, you know? So, and they're
Yeah.
overhearing it
Yeah,
because
they
that's
are.
what is out there, right?
Yeah, that
So,
DSCR,
Yep.
bank statement loans, it's like, okay.
Yeah. So I think just sharing, serving, and really thinking about them and where they're at today. And again, don't think of them as like they're ready to buy today, because most people aren't ready to buy right the second. There might be a few, but you got to talk to, you know, your whole audience.
So how important are hooks these days, and where's a good place to maybe get an automation to kind of build out content strategies for you? Do you recommend them? What do you
Yeah.
think on that stuff?
So
Because
I have
everyone is
mixed
so hung up on
feelings.
the AI crap.
Yeah, I think that you can utilize, you know, AI as a tool for sure. But I think that the best content, like the best reel, is not doing it that way. I think it's when you're having a conversation with someone, maybe somebody you're coaching, or maybe one of your clients,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really impactful in the moment in real life, and then you're like, wow, that was really impactful. I'm gonna go make a video.
Totally.
That is good content.
Yeah. So you're big on journaling. I'm big on
Mm-hmm.
journaling. I do, and I try to teach the students what I call business journaling,
Okay.
because this mind can get in the way of production.
Yeah.
So for me, I have this thing sitting next to my office all day. When I think of something, or I have a conversation piece like you
Yeah.
just mentioned, just write it down,
Yeah.
right? And then another way to kind of implement on that I use, I'll go back at the end of the day or end of the week, I'll go back and look for those concepts, and then I'll put them in an ideation page.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do, so like a spreadsheet, and I'll put the concept. I might try to go find somebody else that's talked about it or done it to fine tune my
Okay.
approach. That's
Sure.
kind of like the Mr. Beast
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah.
Find out, see who else is doing it and just kind of copy some of it.
Right.
And then I'll rate it. So I'll give it like a 1 through 5.
Wow.
And I keep all the 5s at the top, and sometimes
Okay.
the 1s never really
Yeah.
get up, or they get repurposed in a different way.
Yeah, I would encourage you to maybe create one of the ones and post it and see
Right.
what happens. Because sometimes the stuff that we think is absolutely ridiculous and not good is what will hit.
Yeah, I was thinking of that when you were
Yeah.
talking about some other pieces. That's really interesting too. That's probably one of the most common things I hear with people that find that breakthrough in Instagram. They're like, some of the things I never thought would get the views
Yes.
got the most views.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So I think that you have to be willing. This is something Ryan does really well. Is he'll just throw stuff out there
Yeah.
and see how it lands. Yeah, there's strategy, of course, behind a lot of what we do, but sometimes he's just gonna test it and see. And then going back to what you said about looking at similar content, I think that's a good strategy. You have to be careful with that though, because some people will then be over analyzing and they won't make a good video because they're trying to be like this other person, and then it comes off inauthentic.
As like a duplicate. Yeah, sure.
So
That's good. So engagement is sort of challenging, but there's some organic ways to do so. So what I think is the most typical model, especially for loan officers, is they're just on social media cruising, and then they post something, and after they post it, they just like go back to cruising. So talk about some organic techniques for just engaging with people in general.
yeah, so
Because it's actually a lot more simple than people think, right?
I think so, and I think that you have to just genuinely care, right? And what you're doing here is really smart by having a podcast and inviting, say, top producing realtors to collaborate with you is really smart, because then you're going to tap into their audience as well, so that you can engage with more people that you could potentially help. And then I would recommend podcasting with some past clients.
Yeah, totally.
And getting,
I like
their
that idea.
experience.
Yeah.
Because then you
The
have
fears.
that raw,
Yeah.
real scenario that your audience can see.
Well, and I think a lot of loan officers forget how many people are involved in the process of
Yeah.
buying a house, right? So you've got yourself, you have the client, you have a real estate agent, you have an inspection,
Yep.
you have an appraiser,
Oh yeah, there's so many people.
you have an attorney, right?
In some
states,
states, yeah.
right? Sometimes you may find like a contractor involved because
Yep.
you need to get quotes.
Oh yeah,
I
there's
mean,
so many moving
that's
parts.
8 people right there.
Yeah.
And if you film with them for an hour and then break that down, you've got clips for probably almost the whole year.
Right.
So I want to make a transition into what you guys offer, and how you can help people really get back to doing what they're good at, which is recording authentic
Yeah.
content and then going and writing loans. So talk about what you guys do with Ryan, your position there, and how you can fulfill a lot of that tedious tasks that really makes most people quit doing it,
Yeah.
right?
So what we really help people with is building their personal brand. So, a lot of people, they don't think their story is interesting enough. You know, they're like, why would anyone care to know about me? I was talking to a guy earlier today, and he said that's what was preventing him before he got started. He's like, I'm just a nerd. Nobody would care about me. He has 61,000 followers now. So it turns out they liked him.
Yeah,
you know?
there's a good handful of nerds out there for sure.
So we help you, first of all, tell your story, kind of like you were doing with your coaching. And then we help you get out of your head to see the, like, I call it like, see your magic. A lot of people can't identify that within themselves. They just really struggle. It's kind of sad when you think about it, right? Like, we just don't, because we don't want to be conceited, is how we perceive it, right?
Yes, totally.
But we all have different gifts. We all help our clients in unique and special ways. And so that's the type of content that you need to create. So it's like, how do you take what's unique and special about you and then what your life mission is and purpose, and then merge that with your business? And if you can cross those two, then you can make content that's going to be engaging.
Totally.
And so we start there by
Feel
building
good,
the foundation.
engaging.
Yeah. And because, like, that's step one. You can't. We did just help people create content at first and, like, do hooks and, you know, key points and call to action, but it wasn't coming off like authentic. And so we're like, okay, we have to rewind. We need to build the foundation first.
that, yeah.
And so that's our brand blueprint
So
that we take them through.
when I help people with their brand, I'm helping them bring their true authentic self for building relationships.
Right.
Which now we take that a little bit deeper with you guys, and we bring that to the forefront of basically going direct to consumer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in the foundation piece. Keep going.
Yeah, so we build the foundation, and then we work on the production. And then when you have all of those pieces together, then we help with the monetization. So getting leads, of course, and then if they want to build out a coaching program or something like that, you know, or getting into like ads. But we start with building the foundation first. And I think that that's what we are really good at, is just helping you see what would be good content.
Yeah, finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all of Kate's contact details here. We're gonna have your Instagram handle pop up right about here.
Okay, Kate Sells Vegas. Yeah. So
And we'll drive people your way.